Welcome to Pagan Coffee Talk. If you enjoy our content, please consider donating and following our socials.
Do you even remember what we were going to talk about?
Yes, I do. How science has evolved and you can basically...
They're getting really close to where you can have a custom
made
baby.
Child.
Right.
Yes.
You can pick their height, their sex, their hair color, if they're going to have any genetic this or that.
Yep.
All right. Do you have a problem with any of this?
I do. A huge problem.
Okay. Now, I don't have... No, need to state this ahead of time. I don't have a problem with the whole IVF...
Fertility.
Fertility, just to have a baby,
Absolutely
I don't have a problem
not.
with. All right? What we're talking about is with the upcoming AI stuff and the genome being mapped that you can customize your baby
Exactly. I think you're messing with the wheel, so to speak. You're messing with...
You're messing with forces you don't quite sure about yet.
Exactly. You have souls leaving, it's almost like an airport. We're an airport. You got souls departing and landing continuously, and you're messing with that airport.
Well,
if you start to...
When you start customizing genes and stuff and you take something away, if you take that one gene away, are you sure you're not taking away their ability to, I don't know, have intelligence?
Exactly.
We don't know what pieces do what. Why this...
What are you giving up?
Why in the world this gene might cause cancer, but if we get rid of it, it also supports eye function somehow.
And that leads to, again, I've got 3 separate children with 3 separate sets of genes. One of those children is missing a portion of a gene, which affects his cognitive functions and executive functioning skills. So there again, like you said, if you start messing with that DNA,
right.
You might...
I mean, Down syndrome's caused just by a double DNA
hiccup,
basically a hiccup. I'm not being mean.
You end up with 2.
You end up with 2 instead.
Right. So while you're ordering blonde hair, blue eyes, and a 6-foot, child, you might end up creating a learning disability.
Something else.
Something that predisposes them to cancer or heart
something
issues.
else.
Yeah.
So when so if they start doing this, these first few babies are probably going to be really, really bad off when they become adults, probably.
Or it could, have a different effect, and the first one turns out fantastic, so everybody jumps on the bandwagon, and that's where it.
But now, let's be a little bit more shallow about this. Does this mean that we're all going to wind up looking alike?
No.
We're all going to be 6 foot because we're always going to pick what we consider the best genes or the best feature, or we just all going to wind up looking alike?
I don't think so, because everybody has different tastes, different preferences. You're attracted to different people.
But at the end of the day, I'm sorry. I watch YouTube. I see all the girls sitting there going, you got to have the 6 6s, 6 foot, 6 figures.
And that leads to something else. What is the current trend?
Right.
So today's trend.
But you with me? Most women I know, the guy's got to be at least 6 foot something. So all the guys are going to be 6 foot from now on.
Yes.
So I guess that means they're all going to be blonde hair, blue eyes,
muscular.
That are you with me? They're all going to wind up. Everybody's going to wind up looking the same. It's kind of like, I think it's kind of like when you see the ladies that get plastic surgery.
Yes.
They all wind up looking alike.
Yes. Same lips, same eyes, same.
Even though they didn't start off that way, by the end of it, they all look just the same.
Correct. Manufactured
plastic. Made in China on your butt.
And that's where I think, again, why do we want to mass produce children or a race or a society? Why do we want to mass produce? Because that's kind of what it's turning into. I'm a firm believer of science, and it amazes me the leaps and bounds that they, are able to to overcome and come up with each and every day. But is this what we really want to focus on? While they've spent all this time and money researching how we can custom make a child,
Well, again,
why haven't they found a cure
but again,
for cancer?
we can't sit here and look at just the negatives on this. There are some positive sides of this. We're talking about being able to eliminate childhood disease, certain genetic diseases, possible cancers, and I mean, there are things diseases and stuff we could eliminate.
Yes, but then that's where I go back to divine intervention, and where I truly feel, because I am unique in that I have had a child with a birth defect where she didn't live past 14 minutes. I've had a second child who has a birth defect, that affects his executive functioning and cognitive abilities, as well as some of his physical attributes. And then I've had a third child who, for lack of a better description, is perfect in every way. He is smart. He is perfect health. He is gifted naturally with an athletic ability that I really, haven't seen. But if given the choice, I would not have wanted to miss the experience of my daughter. I would not have wanted to miss the experience of raising my son that has special needs.
Right.
And I of course, I wouldn't want to miss the experience of my third child as well, who is completely normal, completely healthy, gifted. And so I think that's where you start messing with divine intervention, because I do believe everything happens for a reason. And when you start to custom order your children, you may be missing out on a bigger lesson, something that the universe had in store for you, and you've kind of taken a detour onto a different path.
All right. Well, let me take this conversation to a little bit more, even a darker place. Okay. So we start doing this. We start customizing kids and all this. And how long until we start customizing perfect mailman, the perfect senator, the perfect soldier? Are you with me?
Yes,
how long until we actually start customizing people to fit into certain jobs to where in the world they're not going to do anything else? How long until we actually customize and take the free will away from people?
Exactly. And you nailed it right there. You're taking away the free will. And to me, that just leads to a path of destruction of society as we know it.
It just seems to be stale and falling apart type thing than destructive. It seems like things just stop. Evolution stops.
Correct.
People just stop.
Correct. And kind of, I think you mentioned AI. It goes back to a lack of realness, it's almost like living in a virtual reality. Right. Where, if you custom ordered your mailman, you custom ordered your military, your senators, your politicians, then we're just living in almost a virtual reality where
everybody's an NPC.
Exactly. And I don't think that's, in my opinion, where we want to go. I think, again, we are given this short time on Earth to live and to learn, to grow and evolve. And I don't think that, by rubber stamping and manufacturing, and I keep using those terms because that's what it feels like to me. You custom order a child like you scroll through Amazon and have something delivered.
Yeah.
To me, that just... It has a ripple effect, I think, that is larger and spans a distance that is, I don't think that science is taken into consideration. And somewhat by selling this or marketing this idea, for those who buy into it, they're kind of taking away that free will, that choice, if this becomes a thing,
I don't think I'd ever do it, but
I certainly wouldn't. Again, not everybody is going to have the perfect baby. Not everybody is going to have the perfect life. But I firmly believe that's the whole point. Because we only grow and evolve from the storms that we survive.
Right.
And if there were no storms, then, we're all living in this sort of utopia. And
Well, see, I think us being pagan, we tend to think nature would do a better job at this.
yes,
Now, we all admit nature screws up often. People are born without arms, with outside.
is that a screw up though?
But I'm just saying, body-wise, there's a screw-up. There's just a malfunction in the way it grew. The arm didn't grow. This didn't. It happens, right? But I think overall, nature is actually trying to make us all evolve anyway.
Correct. And I would counter that, even the person born with a missing limb or a malformed, something like maybe a cleft palate, again, that might not necessarily be a screw up. That might be intentional, because that might be intended for the path that soul needs to take.
No, I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
that it's just there are hiccups in.
Yes.
Nature's not perfect, just like everything else. It don't always run exactly the way it's supposed to.
Right.
Things do happen.
Absolutely.
Now, with that said, though, I still think it's a better petri dish to do this, because again, I still believe at some point there is going to be a being that is literally born that has the best genes of all humanity. If they were to do one of the DNA tests and they were to put little pins everywhere it was related to, the whole map would light up. They would literally basically be a child of the world.
I'm trying to follow that logic.
Again, I've already started to see it. How many kids do you know now that are mixed race?
Oh, gosh, a ton.
Right, compared to when we were younger.
Correct.
All right? Now you have Hispanics starting to marry other people and Asians starting to marry other people, especially here in the United States. How long until someone's born whose literally heritage is the whole entire world? If they, like I said, if they were to do the DNA test, it would literally be everywhere. You're a member of every country. You're every culture.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Kind of like the ancestry,
Right.
hits on everything.
Everything equally. You have the best genes of all humanity.
I still think that's a
I think this is something I'm looking forward to.
long time coming, because ultimately, my original answer before I saw where you're going with this, my original answer was, kind of like the only way for that to happen would be, a child created from the god and goddess themselves. But
do you see what I'm saying?
yeah. Because I guess maybe we should frame it a little bit, because we've had this discussion a lot since we were in the same science class back in high school. But, scientifically speaking, you get the best DNA from your parents. And when you mix those races, not only are you getting the best DNA from, the father and the mother, but now you're getting the best DNA from that race.
Right.
And so that's where, we're kind of going with this is, well, what if, the different races, all of the ethnicities on the planet,
Right.
somehow were to
Have an
join
orgy?
in some way. I don't know how that would even be possible.
I don't. But you with me?
I am. If it were to somehow be possible that you have a child that's produced with the DNA of all races known to man, all ethnicities, then yeah, you would have the perfect example of an individual with, I don't know, the best of the best. But would we know for certain that would be? I mean, I don't know that would necessarily make them superhuman.
I don't know if it would make them superhuman.
I'm
not talking superhuman. I'm talking about something that can hold a more powerful soul than we can now. Back to where bigger gurus can come into this world and teach us even more.
From that standpoint, I absolutely would say yes.
Are you with what I'm
Yes,
saying,
from a
that somehow our bodies need to evolve to be able to hold a little bit more power, a little bit more energy, a little bit more
Yes.
soul?
From that standpoint, I 100% agree. The only downfall to that is, even though you're getting the best of the best genes from every race, you're also getting some of the complications that come along with it. Certain ethnicities are prone to certain diseases that or they have a higher risk that other ethnicities do not. But if you have a
But I'm
child,
thinking maybe if you have a child like this, that somehow
Cancels-
one something cancels out something
The other,
else,
yeah.
else, and you only get the good side of that gene
of everything,
of everything.
could be, yeah.
Yeah, are you with me? Somehow
Yeah.
it all balances itself out. Going, look,
So
y'all.
that heart disease risk is lowered for this race because the other one
because you
is a
got
little bit
so many
stronger.
other has something else.
Right, so they can kind of, I could see it happening, not in our lifetime.
No,
but
no,
it would
but
be.
that-
It would be very interesting to witness and see. It would be a
I-
very
no,
special child.
believe it or not, I'm gonna give you something kick. I actually think we're closer to it than we actually think. I think more mixed races happen. Look back through history. We've been doing this for generations. All right, how many other species, Neanderthal and all them others, did they kept on saying, "Oh, wait a minute, we keep on finding their DNA in us."
Yes, that's
All right,
true.
we did not always go out and kill. Sometimes we went out and shagged instead.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day. So again, this is a process that's been happening since the beginning of humanity.
I agree.
All right, I think it's even more speed up now than it was back then.
True. I think it probably came to a kind of it slowed down there for a while, maybe had a little stalemate, but I think you're right. It's recircled back because we have more open-minded
Right.
individuals.
And again, especially in American society, because again, I see the mindset from when we were in high school
Yes.
about people dating each other of different races to the way it is now. The way it is now, nobody even thinks about it.
Correct.
All right, man. How many comments have I heard about commercials all being mixed race?
Well, and now you too. I mean, you have kids that don't even see. For example, my kids don't even see race.
No.
They will use and kind of proud mom moment here, but I always use the Barack Obama example during one of the presidential inaugurations. We were discussing who was president at each time that my
Right.
children were born, and we were telling my youngest that Barack Obama was president when the oldest was born, and so we're watching the inauguration. He's like, "Well, which one is Barack Obama?" And my oldest is like, "Well, he's right there," and he's like, "He's wearing a blue suit and a red tie." Okay, well, there's like 1,000 people at the inauguration wearing a blue suit and a red tie, and so of course my youngest is like, which one? And my oldest used every example or adverb in his vocabulary to describe Barack Obama, but it never once occurred to him to use his skin color. He was like, he's standing 3 feet to the left of that guy.
Yeah.
He's
I mean,
got
it's an
short brown
inauguration.
hair.
He's the guy holding up his hand right now.
Yeah. So, so now we've got kids who don't even see race. And so that makes...
And they don't even think of it as something to describe.
Exactly. It's not even an adverb anymore. It's not even a description
Okay.
or part of a description in their vocabulary when they're talking. Now, I'm not saying that's true for all kids.
No,
but I think that that's more prevalent now than it was certainly back during our childhood. But it circles back to your point that if we have kids who aren't even seeing race,
who's not
then
even
that
thinking about it.
increases-
It's not
exactly,
even.
that increases the likelihood that
You're going to date or fall in love with
Exactly.
because of their personality, blah blah, and go with that. And
right, and when they procreate, that's only going to intermix
even more. So
DNA.
again, I see it speeding up. I think we're closer to it than we think we are. Because I have met people who are not just biracial, but like triracial. And I even know a few people that are quadracial, and I'm like, okay, I think there's more of that out there than we think.
I can agree with that. I still think it's a bit off. And would we even know? Would we even know if such a child existed?
Well, I mean, they could put it on the census. I mean, how many people are mixed race versus how many is not?
But right now, there's no registry. I mean, we're not.
Well, I mean, on the census, just like, like we do everything else.
Oh, true.
Is all I'm thinking is you start doing that. You start asking,
Or they start, requiring that with a simple blood draw, which they, the government may already be doing. We just don't know it. Just throwing that out. That's another discussion for another time. But
remember, they're listening.
Oh yeah. But
what's that saying? Just because you're crazy doesn't mean they ain't watching you.
Exactly. Exactly. But now that I could get behind. But to circle back to the original thought process of being able to genetically alter your child before conception.
There's a difference in my mind between us doing it and it just happening in nature.
Correct.
All right.
I don't like,
I don't. For some reason, it just it feels yucky when you're sitting there going, "Ooh, hey, yeah, look what we created in the lab."
Kids aren't casseroles,
I'm just like, "Ooh, who picked what?"
I'm not digging that either.
Versus nature, where it's sort of like she does a potluck and what you get is what you get.
Right. And eventually, like you said, at the end of the day, there's going to be somebody who got the very best of the very best of what nature had to offer versus something that was, engineered in a lab.
Right.
And again, there's so many different paths this conversation can take. And I still circle back to my own personal experience. I would not have traded any of my children to have had the perfect child. Do I hate that they had, difficulties? Do I hate that they might have a disability or struggles? Absolutely. But I accept that this is what nature gave our family.
Right.
And so we just move forward from there.
I can understand that. Want some coffee?
I do.
Thanks for listening. Join us next week for another episode. Pagan Coffee Talk is brought to you by Life Temple and Seminary. Please visit us at lifetempleseminary.org for more information, as well as links to our social media: Facebook, Discord, Twitter, YouTube, and Reddit.
We travel down this trodden path, a maze of stone and mire. Just hold my hand as we pass by a sea of blazing pyres. And so it is the end of our days, so walk with me till morning breaks. And so it is the end of our days, so walk with me till morning.